That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
And all you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni-beating, pie-eating, trailblazing, eyebrow-raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
Welcome to Around the Ring, episode 42 for today, Monday, November 9th, 2015. I am your host, Dave Brown, joined with my co-host, Jason Blackwood. How you doing, sir?
Excellent, excellent. I just want to say, Viva Mex America, Dave.
Viva Mex America. we will definitely talk about that and here when we get to Raw, but a lot going on this week. The big news, of course, is Seth Rollins effing up his knee. Man.
Oh, it was rough.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the actual video footage of it. Did you?
I haven't got a chance to see any of the footage, but from what I understand, if you watch it in regular, just regular speed, it doesn't look so bad because from what I understand, I guess he was going for some kind of a flip to go to do a power bomb or something on I want to say it was Kane, and I mean from what I understand, he hit his foot down wrong and I guess it just tore his knee up.
Yeah, that's my understanding. He was going for a sunset flip into a power bomb through a table with Kane, and when he landed for the sunset flip, his knee buckled. And he went down, and somehow, amazingly, he got back up, finished the move, somehow did the power bomb, did a pedigree, which just seems really dumb to do a move where you fall on your knee after you just foobarred your knee. And exactly. he's got a torn ACL, torn MCL, and his meniscus is effed up. The prognosis is 6 to 9 months, but apparently, realistically, it's going to be more like he's going to be out for probably close to a year. In this, WWE has gone ahead and stripped him of the title, and they have set up a tournament that is going to go down at Survivor Series for the WWE Championship. So that is so. This whole thing is, I look at this and I've got two reactions. One, this really sucks for Seth Rollins. It is just awful, especially for a guy that flies around like he does. But, you look at the silver lining, and this gives WWE an amazing opportunity to finally do something with this amazing roster of talent that they haven't done shit with,
That's what I think is great about this tournament is, a lot of people say that Roman Reigns is the favorite, but with WWE, you never know until what's going to happen. You can read all the dirt sheets that you want, but it doesn't matter until it actually happens. So it's great. I like the idea of a tournament. I love when they did the King of the Ring. I think that Raws coming up are going to be pretty interesting leading up to Survivor Series for sure.
I think so too. So over the last week, I listened to a couple of different podcasts that had some ideas for how they would book it. One was Sam Roberts. He did basically a break-in, not his traditional time of the week episode for the State of Wrestling. And then on the Solomonster show yesterday, they both kind of broke down how they think this should go down. And really, I liked both of their ideas. Sam Roberts said that you do a 16-man tournament all in one night, and you start it off. You give Roman Reigns a bye from the first round since he's a number one contender, which makes sense. You give the New Day a slot and give them a bye, so they're all automatically in the second round as well, but it's only going to be one of them. And then you have matches with, you have in there guys like Neville, Owens, Del Rio, Cesaro, and a few others, and have it come down to, and Ambrose, and have it become really obvious that the New Day is working for the Authority, have Roman Reigns beat one of the New Day members, probably Big E, I'm guessing, and it come down to Roman Reigns against Dean Ambrose in the main event. And at the end, have Triple H come out and throw Roman Reigns a sledgehammer at which Roman Reigns looks at it, looks at Triple H, then gets an evil grin on his face, knocks out Ambrose, and gets the win. So that's one idea. Now, I actually was listening, I was like, that's a great freaking idea.
Oh, yeah.
The Solomonster's idea was that you also have a 16 man tournament, but you do rounds, the third round, the semifinal, and the finals on the pay-per-view, and you do the first round starting on Raw tonight. And in that, he had a similar situation where it would come down to Ambrose and Reigns, and then in this match, the Usos come out and attack Ambrose, allowing Reigns to get the pin. And either one of two things happens: either when the Usos attack Ambrose, Reigns sees it, takes advantage of it, gets the win, turns heel that night, or the next day on Raw, have Ambrose come out, flip out, scream at the Usos, Reigns come out, stand side by side with them. The main event's a tag match, Usos against Reigns and Ambrose, and in that match, Reigns turns heel on Ambrose, and he and the Usos start a new faction. Which I don't know which idea I like better. I like that idea because it doesn't have to get the Authority involved. There is some kind of cohesion in having the Authority involved in Sam Roberts' idea. I think either way, it really does need to come down to Ambrose versus Reigns. And I do think that Reigns needs to turn heel on Ambrose. It just makes the most sense. You could, if you do it, either he joins the Authority, or you could just have him do it with the Usos being sick of being booed all the time. Either way, Reigns is the one who needs to be turned heel because he is, at least in interviews, comes off as a very unlikable person. So there's that. And then Ambrose is just beloved. So turning Ambrose heel, even though he is the lunatic fringe, even though I hate how they add fringe on that one, I just call him the lunatic. It makes more sense. Anywho, so from a certain standpoint, because Ambrose is the crazy guy, it makes sense for him to turn, but the fans it wouldn't be a good reaction because the fans would shit on it because they love Ambrose. And they're starting to like Roman Reigns, but they also there's a large contingent that just doesn't. And it would, just as him not winning the title at WrestleMania was good for his career, him turning heel right now would be good for his career, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just like Sam Roberts said, people are already booing Roman Reigns, might as well give him a reason to boo him, with I especially like the idea when he was said, slide him that sledgehammer, and then Roman Reigns just nails Dean Ambrose with a Superman punch with the sledgehammer. That would be awesome to see.
That would be cool.
Like Dean Ambrose, I think it would be cool. Roman Reigns, he's not too bad of a wrestler. He still needs to work on his promos, and I think that's what's great about if he does end up getting to turn heel is, he'll still have his chance to talk, but he'll still be able to have a mouthpiece such as like Triple H or they need to pair him up with someone.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, though, I think he will have an easier time coming off as a heel because he is one of those kind of alpha male football jocks, which by default, those guys are kind of dicks. No offense.
Yeah.
But if he just plays that up, and just like earlier this year, he was on Sam Roberts' show, ironically, and he was in this interview and he made some comments that really just rubbed people the wrong way, and I don't think he meant anything bad by them, but he made a comment about how, with the Superman punch, he created a brand, and that, and then he made some comment about people booing him, but he's still getting rich, and he just came off like a grade A asshole. But from everything I've heard, he's apparently a very nice guy. But I think you could play up that whole alpha male thing, and you could play up the fact that this guy isn't John Cena, so let's not have him be this unflappable guy who can get booed and spit on and just still smile at you, which how John Cena can do that. That man's got just walls of steel to be able to put up with that. But have him just get sick and tired of it. Just scream at people, I've tried to do everything you wanted. You booed the hell out of me for nothing I did just because I wasn't Daniel Bryan. And I'm sorry. And he could even go so far as to say, I'm sorry I'm this good looking. I'm sorry that I'm better than you. But that would be the way to do it, I think. But the bigger question, though, is, because I think we can probably agree that Reigns is probably going to come out with the championship, most likely.
Yeah.
The rest of the tournament, though, is such an opportunity to make other guys on the roster look strong. Something that I think they've done really well the last 2 weeks on Raw, with the last week's episode, meaning last Monday's one we're about to talk about, but the previous one, that whole tournament for the number one contender, I thought that did a really, really good job making everyone in that tournament look really good. And it wasn't just, this was handed to Roman Reigns. It wasn't, he just, Supermaned his way out of it just like John Cena would have. It was, by the end of it, it looked like, okay, Roman Reigns barely got through this. Hell, he barely got through his match with Kofi Kingston, which was great. And then that Survivor Series match that we'll talk about, later on, from this last week, also made everyone look really, really good. So this tournament needs to be a way to showcase, to make everyone look good. So if we've got 16 slots to fill, and let's just say that, we'll say that Roman Reigns gets a bye, so he won't be in the first round. And I also like the idea of a New Day member getting a bye. So that means that's 2 of the 16. So we've got 14 more guys to fill this up. Who do you think who should be in this?
You definitely got to put. I don't want to see any of the guys like. This is going to sound like sacrilege, but I honestly don't want to see Kevin Owens or Del Rio in it, because you can obviously tell that if either of those guys are in it, they're not going to win it. Simple fact is because they've already had a double champion this year. WWE is not going to do it again.
Right.
I want to see a surprise, like somebody that's, a mystery opponent, and it's got to be somebody. I wouldn't even mind Jericho, honestly. Fantasy, I would love to see Daniel Bryan come in. If he's well enough to come back, I'd love to see Daniel Bryan come in. Got to have Cesaro in it. Wouldn't mind seeing Bo Dallas, but he's not going to get far in it. As long as we don't see Sheamus, I think we're going to be fine.
God, yes. See, I would put Del Rio and Bo Dallas, or not Bo Dallas. I would love to see Bo Dallas in there, but I would put Del Rio and Kevin Owens in there. For the same reason that they belonged in that tournament for the number one contender. By putting them in there, you're helping to re-elevate those 2 titles to show that these are stepping stones to the world title, which is something that has been ignored for far too long. And having these guys as part of the upper mid-card, also, jumping into the main event from time to time is where they need to be, because traditionally, those 2 titles, back when it was the NWA and WWF, you were the number one contender if you held that belt. You were, at any point you wanted a world championship shot, you were supposed to be able to get one.
Next in line.
Yeah, you were exactly. That was the title that you got those titles to get to the next title. So I think you put Del Rio and Owens in there. I think they get to the second round. I think you've got to have in there obviously Cesaro, and I would want Cesaro to get probably to the semifinals. You have Dolph Ziggler, Tyler Breeze, Neville.
Is Rusev hurt again?
No, yeah, he's still hurt. You could bring up someone from NXT, and in fact, I forget which of the guys suggested it, but you could almost have an NXT either Survivor Series match in the pre-show or an NXT tournament to see who would get in. If you do that, you can't have it be Finn Balor you can't have it be really Samoa Joe, maybe Apollo Crews, or maybe Baron Corbin.
I cringe at that thought.
See, I think Corbin's getting better. And he is a natural just jackass, and he has the presence. You know they're going to want to push that guy to the moon once they get the opportunity. Once he really things start to gel more with him. But I think he's got a good character. He's got a great look, and as he gets more and more experience in longer matches, I think he's got a lot of potential. But in a way, you almost want to keep out. You part of me thinks, okay, this is a good opportunity to bring in someone from NXT, or I hadn't even thought about Jericho. You could bring Jericho in, but Jericho's entire purpose of being in there would be to give a rub to someone else, because Jericho's not going to win the title. You can't put Brock Lesnar in there, because if you do, Brock has to win, and he has to destroy everyone, and what good is that going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
This has to be the opportunity for WWE to look at this roster, and even though they have absolutely misused the talent that they have, look at it and realize, okay, as far as in-ring work, we probably have the most talented roster we have possibly ever had, and we need to take advantage of that. And I liken what WWE is going through right now, I really liken it to what they went through in the early 1990s when they were phasing out Hogan and Savage, when they made Savage an announcer, when they were phasing out Hogan and he eventually left for WCW, and they started focusing on Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, all these other guys. Now, granted, there was a good few-year period where ratings sucked, interest was down, but you go back and you look at those matches, and some of those were amazing matches. But those were the guys, that was the generation that blew up in the Attitude Era. So you have to give these people time. And right now we're in basically the same position. Triple H is a corporate figure. John Cena, who is not old but has been shoved down our throats for 10 years, it needs to be taking a back seat. Randy Orton needs to start taking a back seat. We need to start handing this off to this newer generation of guys and ladies and let them run with it. And if that means for a couple of years we're going to have lower ratings, then fine, because in the long run there is serious money in your Seth Rollins, in Finn Balor, in Cesaro, in Dean Ambrose, in Bray Wyatt, who also probably should be in this tournament. And that's just what they need to do. Now, are they going to be smart enough to see that? I don't know. Because back when they did this in the 90s, it was Vince McMahon's pocketbook who was in trouble. That's all. Now that they are a publicly traded company, you've got shareholders, nipping at their feet all the time. And the one thing we know about corporate America is it is very short-sighted. So yeah, and I'm not, Solomonster suggested putting Big Show in there to eventually have him lose to Roman Reigns, and I could see that. When he first said that, I was like, oh, gross. But you bring in a couple of the older guys who've been around for a while to let them job to the younger guys to add some legitimacy to it. One thing for certain, though, is SummerSlam just got a hell of a lot more interesting.
Survivor Series, yeah,
that's
sure.
Yeah,
for sure, yeah. And you always, I think WrestleMania is going to be pretty interesting this year. The Royal Rumble this is like, I don't know, I hate to see it happen like this, but I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles when it comes down to it. Got to lose one of your best guys to push some of the rest of your roster up.
Right.
Really, they were kind of at a stalemate with Seth Rollins to begin with, because he had went through and beat everyone. Really, the next person that he really could have went and beat was Triple H, with the inevitable face there.
Yeah, it was. Exactly. They were really at a standstill with him. He needs to turn babyface. The matches that, like that there was that match. It was a fatal 4-way. Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose for the title. And Reigns for the most part wrestled that match like a babyface, just like his match against Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. He totally wrestled that like a babyface. And most of his matches against John Cena, he wrestled like a babyface. In the long run, his money is as a babyface. I think people are going to want to cheer him eventually. So that's really where they need to go.
The way Sam Roberts was saying, he was basically saying that he could just basically come back after being out and just straight up be a babyface. I don't think it can work that easily. I'm sure that there needs to be lead up to it. Triple H, you done this to me. Put me in these matches, these dangerous matches. You were supposed to protect me. This, and this, which could lead up to the return of the curb stomp, and hopefully he won't be using the pedigree one. I really feel like that's probably what he needs to do next is go against Triple H once he does come back.
I agree. I think that was the plan for WrestleMania at one point. They were working toward a situation where he went against Triple H. I think what would be really good is, and I forget which of the guys who said this, but other than maybe showing up tonight and saying, I blew my knee, this sucks, I have to give up my title, and I'm not even sure if he should do that, but he should not be on television at all until he's better. And then when he's ready to come back, he shows up, and he will get a hero's welcome, because by that point, people won't be sick of him, and they'll want to see him back. And, Triple H could come out and play all nice buddy with him, and he could even say something like, yeah. So, why haven't you been calling me to check on my progress? And something along those lines. And, but yeah, you could if nothing else, just the fact that he's gone and he shows up could in and of itself make him a babyface, just from a pop standpoint. But yeah, that's
a huge pop whenever he comes back.
Oh yeah, and he's been getting big pops. A lot of shows he's been getting, big babyface welcomes. A lot of times more so than he's gotten a lot better reactions than Roman Reigns has gotten in a lot of places.
The way it's funny because Roman Reigns is, and I hate to make the similarity to John Cena, but it just really depends on where you go, whether or not he's going to get booed or not. You go to them smarky towns like Philly or like Chicago, and they're just going to crucify Roman Reigns. But you go to a straight, like somewhere that's just, what was the last place that they was at? Was it like Los Angeles? I want to say the night after Hell in a Cell.
I think so.
That was a really good crowd.
Yeah, that was a good crowd, but it was also it was a what's the word I'm looking for? It seemed like more of a casual audience crowd than a smart crowd.
Yeah.
And there's that's, as long as it's a crowd that is vibrant, that's
doing something.
Exactly. So that's kind of where we're going with Survivor Series. I think we're still going to get Wyatt's versus the Brothers of Destruction. Whether there's going to be anyone with Taker and Kane against the Wyatts, that's still, we don't know. If Sting was cleared, I would love to see him join that. I think that would be great. And then you'd finally be able to see Sting and The Undertaker standing in the ring together. I think that would be awesome, especially if the rumors of Undertaker's opponent for WrestleMania 32 are true, which is John Cena.
Yeah.
But if that meant John Cena lost at WrestleMania, then, I'd be okay with that. But that with because tickets just went on sale for that WrestleMania. It's in Dallas Stadium, or it's an AT&T Stadium, I think, in Dallas, which can hold theoretically up to 100,000 people. And WWE wants to sell that out so badly, and they want to be able to say, they've got 100,000 people, which even if they have like 80,000 people, which is a hell of an accomplishment, they'll say they have 100,000 because they all.
Oh yeah.
Which it's funny. It's you can't lie about corporate earnings and things like that and subscription numbers legally, but they can sit back and completely lie about the number of people that show up to events. That doesn't make any sense to me. But
they've been doing that for years.
Yeah. Yeah, they have. But Taker against John Cena. Okay, I have no interest in seeing that. I'm not going to lie. I would rather see Taker versus Sting, but that's probably not going to happen. Sting might never wrestle again, since he got jacked up in that match against Rollins. Was that Night of Champions?
That was Night of Champions.
That was Night of Champions. So I guess we'll see. But let's go ahead and jump into Raw this week. So Raw this last week was from somewhere. I can't even remember. Show started out with Roman Reigns coming out for an in-ring promo. Something that stood out to me, because watching this, the crowd did not seem that loud. And at one point, JBL said, "What an ovation." And a few other times during the night, the announcers, early on mostly, talked about how loud this crowd was. And either one of two things. Either it was a lot louder in person, or Vince McMahon was screaming at them to say, "This is really loud," because it did not sound loud to me. Did it sound loud to you?
No, not at all. It didn't sound loud, especially when the Usos came out for the Survivor Series thing. They came out to the crickets, it seemed like.
Yeah, that was... And, as good as I think it was for the Usos to be off television for a while, sadly, I think people are kind of still tired of them. The Usos were the only tag team worth a crap for a long time. And they are a great tag team. Those two are just awesome. But I think it will do them some good. I think if there was a heel turn, like we talked about earlier, and they teamed up with Roman Reigns and then eventually brought in even Team Bad and made this faction of, the Usos, Reigns, Tamina, Naomi, and Sasha Banks, that could be, that's great. That could be money.
You can get behind that.
Yeah. So then, let's see, Rollins came out, headed to the ring after Reigns taunted him. Stephanie and Triple H came out. Then Stephanie did some excellent trolling of the crowd when said that the match between Reigns and Rollins wasn't going to be until Survivor Series, but then did set up a Survivor Series style elimination match that Rollins and Reigns had to each find teammates for. I liked this. I thought this was good. Stephanie can troll like no one's business, man. Mm-hmm. She's really good. She really inherited her dad's, mic skills and heel-ness quite well. She's quite good when she wants to be. The first match of the night was Dolph Ziggler against Kevin Owens. There was a great pop, I thought, for both guys. And then Tyler Breeze did come out and sat ringside in his little VIP section. So what do you think about this match?
I thought it was a decent match for what it was worth. Seems like here lately they haven't really been giving these guys a whole lot of time to do what they do. Ever since I seen a match, it was a while back, it was Ziggler and Owens, and every time I see Kevin Owens go for that running senton that he does, I'm always scared he's going to end up breaking somebody's freaking ribs, man. This is rough. He's a big boy to be coming down on somebody's ribs like that. I feel the same way about Bray Wyatt, too. I mean, he's a big old boy, too. Yeah,
I loved that. I can't remember which pay-per-view it was, but the match that Wyatt had against Ryback, where he did that senton off of the apron onto the floor onto Ryback, and I broke some of Ryback's ribs or brutes. I mean, that was brutal. Whew. So,
I think if that does if that does something like that to somebody like Ryback, just imagine what that can do to somebody like Ziggler if it's not hit correctly.
True. True.
Best move.
Yep. Well, Owens got the win with the pop-up powerbomb after Breeze distracted Ziggler. Then you had Breeze doing some just great Breezeness, getting in the ring, taking a selfie with Ziggler laying on the mat. And then Ziggler did try to get some offense in, which he got taken out with a beauty shot. I think this is going to be a great feud. These two are going to pair up so well together because they both bump around. They both sell like no one's business. So I'm very much looking forward to what happens with that.
Yeah, them two are probably the best sellers in the business right now. Ziggler, he tends to oversell a little bit. That's really about his main flaws. That he oversells the hell out of stuff. He could flip that dude in the head, and he would act like you shot him in the head.
But if you're going to err on either overselling or underselling, probably overselling, especially with a guy like him and probably if he stood next to you or I, he would tower over us. But for a smaller, air quotes, smaller guy, it does look realistic when he goes flying around and oversells. Then we had the first flashback to old Survivor Series, which they did throughout the night. I suspect we're going to get these a lot until Survivor Series. So, is that in 2 weeks so we've got one more? Is tonight the go home show to Survivor Series, or is there one more after tonight?
I want to say there's one more after tonight.
Okay,
we're right. Right. It's the 23rd, so it's not. Yeah, it's not this week. It's the next week. Is what it is. Okay,
yeah. So we do. So actually, it'll be the 22nd. So no, this is the go. No, you're right. We've tonight's episode, and then next week will be the go home show. So I bet we're going to get more of these flashbacks. The first one was the from 1987, the very first Survivor Series, which was Team Savage versus Team Honky.
Oh,
just let that sink in for a minute. I always hated the Honky Tonk Man. I just thought he was awful. And the fact that he's like the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion is just a crime.
Here's the thing is, it's funny because if you've ever actually sat down and kind of like studied his whole Intercontinental Championship reign, it was just basically just bullshit wins, roll-up wins, distraction wins. They were all bad wins, which I feel like they could do something like that with Bo Dallas. That would be great to see him in that role.
That would be. And Bo Dallas at least would be entertaining. Because one thing, man, Honky Tonk's finisher, now granted, most of the finishers from that era nowadays look really tame, but it was that neck breaker that he did was just not ever impressive. So flashbacks to that. Then we had a backstage segment. Seth Rollins came up to Kevin Owens, asked him to join his team. He basically offered Owens he talked it up by saying, how would you like to wrestle for the title at WrestleMania? Which I'm thinking to myself, Owens, how are you going to make that happen? Because Rollins, how's Rollins going to guarantee that? Because Owens would have to win the Royal Rumble, and other than, backstage shenanigans with the Authority. But, Owens eventually agreed, but told him, you owe me one, which generated many, many, many a CM Punk meme out there to the whole, you owe me. But I like this. I like the fact that he went to Owens. I like that Owens is being positioned in the upper mid-card to main event area. And just in doing so, it's elevating the Intercontinental title.
If you really think about it right now, I'm trying to think. I want to say, with Seth Rollins being out right now, Kevin Owens is the top guy, right? Is the top heel right now, right?
He really is. If you really think about it, he is. Because it sure as hell wouldn't be the Big Show. Maybe him or Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt for sure.
But God, it can. Yeah, let's have Bray Wyatt and Kevin Owens as our two top heels. I think that is that is great right there. You can't go wrong with either of those guys. So then we had a backstage interview with Becky Lynch with Renee Young. I always like Renee Young. I think she does a really good job. And I love Becky Lynch. She is the Cesaro of the women's division because she is so misused and she is so freaking awesome. Yeah, she got interrupted by Brie Bella, which Brie got, because you always hear the crowd reactions when they're doing these things, and Brie actually got a really big pop when she came out. I don't know why. And in her matches, she will get these pops mostly when she's doing Daniel Bryan moves. So is she only getting pops because of Daniel Bryan?
I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, I think
she likes that kick.
Yeah, which is admittedly one of the few moves she doesn't completely suck at. But to be fair, she has gotten better in the last couple of months. Both her and Nikki have gotten better. But
I was just fixing to say her and Nikki have actually kind of improved over the last few months. Yeah, for sure.
But overall, I thought this was a really good segment for Becky Lynch. I think it got to show her personality, which we haven't really gotten to see any in WWE since she's been up to the main roster. We then had Cesaro versus The Miz. Really nice pop for Cesaro. Lots of Cesaro section signs. My favorite probably comment of the night by any of the commentary team. At one point, Cole says to Byron Saxton, "Byron, no one likes you." And I laughed. I always have to stop and write down little stupid things that the commentary team says. That I thought was funny. And this was what it needed to be. This was Cesaro beat the utter hell out of The Miz and made him look like a bitch.
Yep.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I love the springboard uppercut that Cesaro does.
Yeah, that corkscrew thing. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. That's a thing of beauty. Really, this guy, everything he does in the ring is impressive. And that the swing, he did like 20 rotations before putting him in the sharpshooter. And
transition, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. And admittedly, I get a little tired of seeing the sharpshooter get used because I think it's an overused move because anyone who's Canadian, it seems like, especially anyone who has any ties at all to the Hart family, even if they're small, busts out that move. I mean, that becomes one of their moves at some point. And so there's a part of me that's like, oh, okay, tip of the hat to Bret Hart. But when Cesaro does it, that's him paying homage to Tyson Kidd.
Yeah.
So
and that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. Plus, and he puts it in, and he puts it in good. He makes that thing look painful. Unlike Natty, whose Natty sharpshooter looks kind of terrible. So yeah, that was a good win for Cesaro. He needs more of those. We then had a Wyatt family in-ring promo. I don't know about you, but their entrance is so impressive.
Oh man, this was by far my whole entire favorite segment of the entire night. I got chills when I seen this, Dave. It was, oh my gosh, it's one of the best promos I've seen Bray Wyatt do ever, hands down. This is what the Wyatts needed to have been doing the whole time: is snatching people up and then not returning on SmackDown or on Raw the next week.
That I agree that it was a beautifully crafted, nice touch with a little vignette of Kane and Undertaker things, and then the pyro and whatnot afterwards. Great effect. Yeah, it was really good, and it really made Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family in general look like badasses. And I love how the way they stand in the ring. Luke Harper's in the middle because he's obviously the number one lieutenant, and then flanked by the two guys in the sheet masks, Rowan and Strowman. I think it makes it for just a really cool effect. So I'm glad that Rowan's back. I much prefer him working with Harper as a tag team than Strowman. But all Strowman needs to do is just stand there and then periodically kill people.
Yeah. And one other note that I want to add about the promo is, if you watch this with a non-wrestling fan, it would be corny. But in my opinion, stuff like this is what makes wrestling. Is the stuff like this. he was talking about how he ate Undertaker and Kane's soul, and brought all the lightning and the pyro, which it looked a little bit corny, but honestly, I loved it. I thought that was great.
I agree, and you need to be corny, and they need to not be afraid to be corny, not to the point of late 80s, early 90s WWE, WCW corny.
Even like the clown days.
Yes, we don't want that. We don't need the Dungeon of Doom kind of crap. We don't need
God.
Zodiac. But look at what Lucha Underground's done. I mean, if you watch Lucha Underground, because they have created such a different environment there, they've got a guy who turns into a dragon, for Christ's sake, and flies off in a ball of fire. And they've got another guy who's basically an astronaut from another planet, and swoops off into space, and it works.
And you got basically I love my favorite wrestler, and actually, it's hard to say who a favorite wrestler is because there's so many damn good wrestlers that come out of Lucha Underground. But you gotta love Mil Muertes. You gotta love. I like Cage. Cage is one of my favorites. That dude is massive, and he moves around like a cruiserweight. So crazy.
Yeah, he apparently, when he first started, I think he was like a Tough Enough competitor at one point, but he was a smaller guy. And then I guess he went on the Scott Steiner steroid package.
Took some whole special vitamins.
Yes, special vitamins. But unlike Scott Steiner, he kept his mobility. So yeah, Brian Cage is impressive. I know he's doing work in AAA. I think because he was on one of I watched a part of a AAA pay-per-view recently. I forget which one it was. But he was on there. I don't know if on an aside real quick, my favorite people in Lucha Underground, I think, really honestly my favorite it's the team of Angelico, Son of Havoc, and Ivelisse.
Oh yes.
I think, and if WWE was smart, they would sign all three of those guys. Angelico is just a crazy motherfucker. Man, just those dives he would do off the
top of that building?
Yes. Yeah. Holy God. That first one he did onto the two crew members, and then the one he did where he was that missile drop kick onto the dude onto the
ladder match?
Yes, the ladder match. Oh my God. But Son of Havoc, who is also known as Matt Cross, that's his actual name, is amazing. I mean, that guy is crazy talented. And how he's not in, some of the bigger indies at the very least. Why is this guy not in Ring of Honor? Why is he not in PWG? Why is he not in Evolve? He just does all of these smaller indies, and he's happy doing it. And apparently he's got like 20 championships or something right now from all the different feds he's in. Why isn't he in New Japan? I mean, good God, he's amazing. And I'm also a big fan of Prince Puma, aka Ricochet. I think he is another one that WWE dropped the ball on.
I'm sure with time, though, you got to think, as good as Ricochet is, you've got to think that at some point in time he's going to end up in either NXT or WWE.
Yeah, I think so. And
so it's good, but Ricochet is just miles better, I feel like.
Than Son of Havoc?
No, I'm talking about Ricochet versus Kalisto from WWE.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yes. Oh, there's no even compare. I mean, Kalisto is fun. He's fun to bump around, but he's also kind of hard to take too seriously. But Ricochet, on the other hand, is so impressive. And it doesn't help that the guy is looks like a model.
It's like when we were talking last night, when you were telling me about you watched the Matt Sydal and the Ricochet match versus Roppongi Vice, and I've seen the gif of that insane flip that he did. Was that like a moonsault, or like what the hell was that?
It was No, it was a shooting star press. He jumped up, and this is a real, for those of you who didn't see it, New Japan had a pay-per-view event, Power Struggle, I think this weekend or last week. And there was a tag team tournament, a junior heavyweight tag team tournament, that the finals came down to the team of Ricochet and Matt Sydal against Roppongi Vice. And at one point in the match, Ricochet runs across the ring, just basically leaps onto the top rope, does a shooting star press onto the floor onto Beretta. It was insane.
I was jaw dropped. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched it, yeah, unfortunately the commentary is in Japanese, which means you watch it and you have no bloody idea what the hell the storylines are, unless you happen to speak Japanese, which I don't. But the match is incredible. Matt Sydal is a phenomenal wrestler, another guy that WWE just completely screwed up with. He's one of those guys. He was there 5 years too early. If he was there right now, he would be doing so much better. And it's ironic that he got, shit canned a year before really NXT took off, and his style would have fit so much better with everything else. But this match was incredible, and everything I've seen from Roppongi Vice in Ring of Honor has been completely unimpressive. You watch these guys in New Japan, they are great.
Yeah.
The only thing I can't get past with those two is how much the Rocky Romero looks like, the snake guy, Santino Marella.
I never actually thought about that. It's funny that you mentioned that, 'cause it's actually true.
Yeah, but that was, go out of your way. If people haven't seen that, go out of your way. And after the match, Sydal and Ricochet get on the mic, and they call out Red Dragon, who are the junior heavyweight IWGP tag champions. But then Roppongi Vice gets on the mic and says, "Hey, we just beat them. We deserve the next title shot." To which the Red Dragon and the Young Bucks come out, and if I'm not mistaken, at Wrestle Kingdom, it looks like there's going to be a fatal four-way between those four teams for the junior heavyweight tag titles, which should be just a ridiculously good match. And real quick before we finish up with get back into Raw, since we're talking New Japan for a second, speaking of Wrestle Kingdom, it's been announced that AJ Styles will challenge Nakamura for the Intercontinental title.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That is going to be a great match.
Yes. Yeah, so there's seriously potential for AJ Styles in the next few months to not only become the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, but also the Ring of Honor World Champion.
Yep.
And at that point, if you're WWE and you don't sign this guy as soon as his deal is up, you are just stupid. And you give him, and the argument has been made so many times. I've heard it on Wrestling Soup. I've heard it on Don Tony and Kevin Castle, where they say, well, AJ Styles never drew. He was TNA champion and he didn't draw anything. They had, 300 to 500 people in the arenas. Honest to God, though, the problem with TNA, no one drew in TNA. Sting didn't draw. Kevin Nash didn't draw. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, no one drew shit in TNA. The only pay-per-view they had that did really, really well was that one, and I don't even know what the name of it was, but it was headlined a match between Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe, and they built that up like a major fight. But yeah, TNA, you can't sit back and say, well, so-and-so isn't a draw because look what they did in TNA. Well, no one did shit in TNA. Let's be honest. You could say that EC3, what a joke, he didn't draw in TNA. Well, it's because no one's drawing in TNA ever. So you can't sit there and say that about AJ Styles. So sure, Ring of Honor events have 5 to 1,500 people, depending on the city that they're in. They're not filling 10,000 seats arenas. Well, they don't have the money that WWE has to, market their stuff well. But what they are doing is every single night filling arenas with loyal fans. That is the fan base that you want to grow, and that's the fan base that WWE is going after through NXT. So yeah, if you can get a guy who has the credentials of being a 2-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion, a Ring of Honor World Champion, an IWGP Intercontinental Champion, along with TNA World Champion multiple times, and who knows whatever else championships he's gotten over the years. If you have the chance to hire that guy, you need to write him however big of a check he wants, within reason, and hire him. Because there's some people, he is going to get more money than Johnny Gargano is. And it's no offense to Johnny Gargano, but who I think is amazing and has a long future ahead of him. But there's levels of guys, and when you bring in guys who've made huge name for themselves on the independents, you give them bigger, you don't give them the standard check. You don't lose out on the opportunity to sign the Briscoes because, this is just what we offer everyone. Sorry.
I feel like WWE is scared to get the Briscoes because of the outside the ring stuff.
Probably.
From what I understand, Jay Briscoe is a raging homophobe. What I understand, I could be wrong, but this is just from some of the stuff I've read online. I think that's WWE's biggest hesitation on them. AJ Styles, he's wrestled with WWE before. He wrestled in 2002, and just, I want to say it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, they had him on the front page about a couple of his matches that he had in 2002, whenever he was around.
Yep.
And you're just like you're saying. I mean, they need to sign this guy, bring him in. I feel like he's bigger than NXT, but Samoa Joe wasn't bigger than NXT, so who knows? And
really, though, if you bring in a guy like AJ Styles, where's he going to work best? Where's Samoa Joe going to work best? Is it a better fit for him to show up on Monday Night Raw, as amazing as that would be? And because if he shows up to Monday Night Raw, and let's say Raw is in, I don't know, Houston or Dallas, and it's filled with fully filled with a casual audience, there's going to be crickets when he comes out.
Yeah.
Now, if it's in Philadelphia, Chicago, someplace like that, one of the smart cities, the place will go apeshit. But you have him in NXT for a year, and because one thing they've been doing better in recent months is on Raw, they talk more about NXT. They show in the little bits right before they go to commercials, they'll show things about the takeover events and whatnot. And so they're doing a good job there in trying to get that mainstream audience to pay attention to NXT. So you get AJ Styles, and you have him wrestle in NXT for a year and pull off just incredible matches. You have NXT, next year, SummerSlam, Barclays Center, AJ Styles, maybe he headlines the thing, and the place goes bonkers. Yeah, at that point, when he shows up on Raw, people will lose their shit.
Yeah.
But
be more familiar with him.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and back to Raw. We then had the Lucha Dragons versus the new official tag team of King Barrett and Sheamus. There was an actual Lucha Dragons little vignette, which I liked that they did. I was disappointed it didn't include any footage from NXT, but it was a cool little vignette trying to build these guys up. One thing that I was just amazed is how small Kalisto looked in that ring, standing next to Sheamus and Wade Barrett.
It's like a child.
He did, man. He was like a freaking hobbit. It was crazy. He looked so small. Lucha Dragons got the win Poor Barrett ate the pin. But, it was a pretty good little match. Nothing to write home about, but I think they're wanting to build up the Lucha Dragons as legitimate competitors for the tag titles, which is fine with me. They should be in the tag title scene because they really are. For as much as Sin Cara, he holds true to the name, he botches like crazy.
Yeah.
But they've got a good chemistry together, and they're fun, and they're a kind of team that if you push them, because WWE loves their marketing, they're the kind of team that kids will love. They'll love the masks, they'll love it's kind of filling the void that Rey Mysterio left. Is Kalisto.
Casual fans behind them too, just by the way that, when Sin Cara is good, Sin Cara is great. Just like Kalisto, that's what a lot of like non-watchers, like me and you, we watch every Monday. If I was wanting to get somebody to come and watch Raw and get them into wrestling, honestly, I would point them to a Kalisto thing, like a Lucha Dragon match, because you got to think a lot of the times those matches have a lot of high energy.
Oh yeah,
all kinds of flippy shit, and one thing that I love about Kalisto is he does this brutal move. It's like a Hurricane Rana, and he just drives their head into the mat.
Yes. Yeah, they'll be on their knees, and he'll do a Hurricane Rana, basically a Hurricane Rana pile driver. And that's an awesome move. And in a way, you almost say you would want to show a casual fan, if you want to just show them a handful of matches, you could show them a Lucha Dragons Los Matadoros match. Because as much as awful jobbers as the Matadors were, because they're being repackaged at this point, I think those guys were good in the ring, man. They could flip around and do some good stuff. It just was so hard to take them seriously after the fact that they were feuding with three-man band.
Here's what's bad is when you have, I feel like Torito was more over than Los Matadors.
I think you're right. And, because he's that good.
Yeah.
He is stupid good. If you ever see any of his stuff from when he was in AAA or down in Mexico, stupid good. We then had backstage, we had Zeb Coulter just hanging out and getting approached by Jack Swagger, which my initial reaction was, oh no. But, this was one of the better times of Swagger speaking that I've ever heard. He sounded natural. He was like, what's going on? Del Rio came in, interrupted him, and it's like, you need to stay away from Zeb and all this stuff. So it looks like they're leading up to what I'm sure will be a enthralling Jack Swagger, Alberto Del Rio feud. But really, at some point, they're going to have a match. Since Zeb was Swagger's manager for so long, you kind of need to address that.
Yeah.
And if it's addressed by Del Rio just beating the absolute fuck out of Swagger, then so be it. Which is the way it needs to be. Because no one takes Jack Swagger seriously.
Nope. Superstars in main event. You can't be taken seriously then.
Yeah. But I will say, I thought he did a good job in this segment. I'll give him credit for that. Then Del Rio had a match with R-Truth. R-Truth got the jobber no entrance thing there. Del Rio won with his Tree of Woe double foot stomp into the upper chest / face area, the same one he used on Neville the week before. That move looks like it sucks.
I want to be on that other end for sure.
Yeah. Can you imagine the planning of this match? So Del Rio's like, so here's what we're going to do, right? I'm going to hang you upside down in the corner. You're going to be stuck there. You're not going to move. I'm going to climb up to the top rope, and I'm going to jump on your face. How's that sound? Oh, yeah, I'll be happy to take that.
Gladly, anytime.
But yeah, Del Rio, that match was boring as hell. But it was, Del Rio looked strong, which is what needed to happen. There was 2005 Survivor Series flashbacks. That was the during the brand split, if I'm not mistaken, which were years that admittedly I wasn't watching. So let's see, where were we?
Del Rio and R-Truth.
Del Rio and R-Truth. So that was a match, and it was over. What'd you think overall of that whole match segment combo?
The segment was far better than the match, but I love Del Rio. The thing is I feel like I don't know who to boo and who to cheer. I mean, because I feel like the whole Zeb Coulter and the Del Rio thing and the Jack Swagger. If you watch that back in the day, when he was borderline racist, and you got Jack Swagger coming in, and he's like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you fighting with him? I mean, shouldn't we be pushing for racial tolerance? I mean, maybe I'm just dumb and I've just noticed stupid stuff like that. But really, even when they were having this feud before, it really should have been over the United States Championship to begin with."
Exactly, I agree. But yeah, and you're right. It's because everyone's still it's a weird situation. It's like, whoa, Del Rio's back. That's freaking cool. We gotta cheer him. But what's his motivation? Is he a heel? Is he a babyface? Because he's kind of playing it up both ways. He kind of wrestles like a heel, and he was talking to Swagger like he was a heel, and Swagger became a face thanks to his feud with Rusev. So yeah, it's like, where do you go?
I think Del Rio now. I think we know now he's a heel though for sure.
You think so?
Yeah. Did you catch SmackDown?
No, I did not see SmackDown this week. What happened?
He had a match against Neville. They came out and they did their whole little tirade, their whole little spiel, whatever, and it was Del Rio and Neville. They had a match, and Del Rio went over. Del Rio was going to leave the ring, and him and Zeb Coulter say something. Del Rio goes back in and just beats the living crap out of him, and Swagger comes in to come and save Neville. So I think now it's pretty obvious that Del Rio is a heel for sure now.
Okay, and that's fine with me. At least let's make a decision, go with it. He's good as a heel. So let's see what happens. That'll be good. And I really liked the match they had the previous Raw he had with Neville. I thought that was a good match. It was cool because it's something we haven't seen.
And the Fury was brutal, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Last week when he laid on Neville, it was like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. And that's one of the nice things about this whole current situation with Rollins being now out, with Cena being out, with Orton being out, is we're going to start to get new matches that we haven't seen. And the fact they brought up Tyler Breeze, that they've brought up Owens, I think we're just going to get some matches that haven't been beaten into the ground. So that's going to be nice. Let's see here. We then had Seth Rollins backstage with the New Day. That was just awesome. The New Day pooping out Xavier Woods, bringing him back. Resurrection. Oh man, I just can't say enough good things about the New Day.
It shows what you can do with the power of positivity, Dave.
It really does. And it really...
Put your unicorn horn up right now, Dave. I got mine up.
We're doing this. But the other thing that's cool is I like that they're constantly keeping the New Day in the main event upper mid card echelon. I think that's great, and I think it was on Sam Roberts' podcast where he had even mentioned, who do you have right now in this in the main event area? He was like, you've got Reigns, you've got kind of Ambrose, and you've got the New Day. And I was like, that's fantastic that the New Day is being mentioned in that breath, and it makes sense. I mean, they've been in the main event the last few weeks, or been involved in getting up to the main event, and they absolutely deserve it. They're the most entertaining thing in WWE by far. But yeah, the power of positivity, got my unicorn horn up. Cannot go wrong. That was a great segment. Then there was Sasha Banks had a backstage interview with JoJo. She's being all her badass Sasha self, which brought us to the fatal four-way for the number one contender for the Divas title. Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks versus Brie Bella versus Paige. And you know what I liked about this match is Becky actually got in a lot of really good offense.
Yeah.
And it was a good showcase for her. Brie did some really good Daniel Bryan kicks. The best spot, and this was one of the few times when this crowd really came to life, because this crowd was pretty dead. But that spot where it was Brie and Paige were going to do a double superplex onto Sasha, and Becky got in there and turned it into a powerbomb superplex. The place just went nuts. That whole group section of the audience that you see from the hard cam, they were on their feet through that whole thing, just going ballistic. Paige eventually got the win after Becky was in the bank statement. This was a really good match, I thought.
Yeah, I still don't understand why Becky Lynch ate the pin, though. Wouldn't you want somebody like Brie Bella to eat that pin? I mean, you want to try to protect these ones that you know are going to end up possibly being your next Divas Women's Champ.
Well, see, here's the thing, because sometimes in this match at least, I think Becky ended up coming out looking really good and strong, because it took two people to beat her. Because didn't Paige hit her with the Rampage after she picked her up out of the bank statement?
Yeah, I think that was what she ended up winning with.
Right. So it took Becky being in the bank statement and then hit with a Rampage to be put out. And she, I think, through the most of that match, she had the most offense. So this was a match where, yeah, she didn't win, but she looked great in the process. Kind of like a few weeks back during the John Cena U.S. Open Challenge, when he had those few matches, those amazing matches with Cesaro, that even though Cesaro lost those matches, everyone in attendance was like, holy crap, this Cesaro guy is fantastic. So it made him look really good. And I think this match made Becky look good. And it's going to kind of create her whole... They're kind of doing an underdog thing with her, I think, which will eventually work, at least until Bayley shows up and says, no, honey, that's my shtick. But that's probably not going to be for a while.
Please, God, I never want to see Bayley as a heel.
Oh, no. There's certain people there are just such natural baby faces. You don't turn them heel. Bayley is one, Sami Zayn is another, which Bayley is the woman Sami Zayn. Just no, you don't. They are lovable people. You can't help but root for them. You could almost say with Daniel Bryan, but he was actually a really good heel for a while.
Oh, he was a little heel that you just wanted to hate so bad because he got this win. Unlike people like Mark Henry and Big Show.
Exactly. All right, so we then have another, it was a flashback to the 2014 Survivor Series. So this flashback was weird because they completely edited out and didn't mention Sting at all.
Yeah.
It was weird. Yeah, it's like they Benoit Sting.
That was the moment of the night for me. I mean, Ziggler, he took out all those guys, that was great and everything, but man, for the whole thing, I mean, that Sting was the whole big deal for me.
Yeah. My only guess is, because I don't think they're on the outs with Sting, because JBL did mention him at some point during the show, earlier in the night. I think they're trying to focus on the Survivor Series matches themselves, not as much other things. So from that standpoint, I mean, I think it would have been, you might not have shown it, but the the dialogue could have said, thanks to an assist from Sting at the very end, Ziggler was able to pull out the win, or something along those lines. But yeah,
he was pivotal in that win, right? I mean, he came out there when Triple H was, when they brought out Brad Armstrong and all that. He was pivotal in that win.
He was. Well, he balanced out what Triple H had done, because Ziggler hit the zigzag, and basically he and Rollins at that point were dead. And then I think it was Triple H came in, hit a pedigree on Ziggler, put Rollins on top, and brought out Brad Armstrong, and then Sting showed up. Sting, hit the Scorpion Death Drop onto Triple H. He switched, put Ziggler on top of Rollins. The other ref came to, if I'm not mistaken, pin, and that was the win. So yeah, it was, and you talk about missed opportunities. WWE so screwed the pooch after that Survivor Series. Now I know that the only reason Ziggler was in that position was because Reigns had gotten hurt. But Ziggler was on fire. People loved him. He was winning matches. He was believable. And instead, they're like, "No, we don't like this guy."
Uh-huh.
It was just ridiculous.
If you ever get a chance, go back and listen to the commentary out of that match. That commentary was just so great. Yeah, it just, JBL was on point. Michael Cole was just awesome. It was almost like Michael Cole just said, "Fuck you, Vince McMahon. I'm doing my own thing." He just had, I feel like he had a lot of emotion in that. And you don't really hear that a lot with Michael Cole.
That was, I do remember the commentary actually being good in that. And it's sad. It's like, with the exception of Jerry Lawler, who at this point I think poor guy needs to retire, Cole and JBL, if left to their own devices, can do really good things in commentary. But it's got to be hard to do anything in commentary with some crazy man screaming in your ear the whole time.
More emotion, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. We then had Charlotte backstage interview with Renee Young. I did not think this made Charlotte look very good. It was not a very good interview for her, I thought.
That was a bad promo, and then I feel like, just to go back for a second, I feel like the Paige promo that she cut at the end of that match was awful. It was so generic. It's like, oh, well, you're all losers, and if you like any of these guys, you're a loser too. Paige is so much better than that, especially when she cut that pipe bomb, I want to say 3-4 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was... what's bad is I didn't even remember that she had cut a promo after that match.
Yeah, she cut a promo after it, and it was just basically cookie cutter, if you like Becky and you like any of these other ones, you're all losers. This is my house. I was like, come on, man. I know Paige can talk better than that. Yeah.
So, yeah, she can. But this interview was not very good for Charlotte. And it's so sad. It's like Charlotte is so good in the ring, but she's not the best talker. She almost needs, and it definitely not her dad, but she almost needs a manager. Someone to do her talking for her. Either that, or she just needs to not talk. We then had the main event. It was Team Rollins, which consisted of the New Day, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins against Team Reigns. And up to this point, they had not announced anything about who Roman Reigns was going to have as his partners. He came out, and then the Usos made their return. Then we had Ryback's music, and then, of course, Dean Ambrose. One note
that I want to make is how great was it when New Day was air banding to Seth Rollins' theme and to Kevin Owens' theme.
Yes, I was just going to mention that.
I've ever seen. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah, and then Kevin Owens, just the way he was looking at them. Yeah, and there was footage once of, I guess at a house show, the New Day had a match against the Ascension, and they were doing that same thing, just rocking out, doing air guitar and air drums, and yeah, that shit was incredible. let's see here. Of all of the people, I thought Ambrose was really the most over, especially during the intros and everything. I think he was the one that got the biggest pop. Xavier was eliminated just like within seconds. He got hit with a super kick and then an Uso splash. Kofi was also eliminated by the Usos, similar fashion. Jey Uso was then eliminated by Big E. Jimmy was eliminated by Kevin Owens. Ryback was eliminated by Big E. Ryback eliminated Big E, sorry. Rollins eliminated Ryback, and came down to the final four was Rollins, Owens, Reigns, and Ambrose, which to me that's just perfect shot of what the future of WWE should be.
Yeah. I didn't really care too much for the ending, but, once I started kind of thinking about that, the way that the match ended, I guess it makes sense because, you don't want any of those guys really taking a pin at that point. So, the match just kind of ended with, Seth Rollins just hitting Dean Ambrose with a chair.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a fantastic match with a terrible ending that the crowd absolutely shit on. They booed so bad. But it was, you're right. You really, at this point, you don't want any of those guys eating a clean pin. Owens got eliminated because of a miscue, basically, a screw-up. So that didn't make Owens look bad. The fact that he was in the Final Four with the three guys who have been almost the core of WWE for a couple of years now was a big thing. Overall, I thought this was 2 weeks in a row of really good episodes of Raw. Probably not quite as good as the previous weeks, but I would say it was overall an excellent show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best. Definitely was help with that Bray Wyatt promo. That Bray Wyatt promo, and that was the highlight of the night for me. I feel like maybe what they should have done with the whole Roman Reigns team is maybe they should have said, okay, we've got Ryback, we've got this guy, and then we have two other people, and we're going to keep it a secret, but stay tuned until the main event. That way, you keep people watching and keep them invested for the whole 3 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours is a long time to watch wrestling, to somebody that doesn't watch wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. And why they didn't do anything to, have him, meet up with, show little backstage things of him talking to Ryback and him talking to Ambrose. Ambrose was kind of a given. I had kind of thought Cesaro might be in it, but I didn't think the Usos were coming back yet. That was a nice surprise. I really liked seeing them back.
Yeah.
And I like that they're now acknowledging that the Usos and Roman Reigns are family. And I would love to see them form some new badass Samoan heel group. I think that would be very cool.
Call it the family.
You could.
They're all related pretty much, right?
They really are. Yeah, they are. They're cousins.
They're all cousins with The Rock. The Rock is like the main thing. Like he's the centerpiece of like everybody. Everybody's related. That Samoan is related to The Rock in some way, shape, or form.
Well, it's that whole Anna Toa or whatever their name is. It's that whole big ass family. It's that the the Samoan SWAT team, Rikishi's part of it. The great, what's his name, Maivia.
High Chief Peter Maivia.
Yeah, High Chief Peter Maivia. Those guys are all related. Somehow Jimmy Snuka's related to them. It's like Samoa Joe is the only Samoan in WWE that's not related to those fuckers. You could even bring up eventually if they have this, if they form this team and they bring in Naomi and Tamina, you could bring up Nia Jax as part of that.
Yeah.
And her be like the enforcer and whatnot. And then you've got the possibility of a showdown between Rock and Roman Reigns at some point. You've got there's so many potential things with turning Roman heel, putting him together with the Usos as a heel faction. That I know I'm actually looking forward to Raw. So we've had two weeks of really good Raws. This is something I could get very, very used to. So let's knock on wood. Hope that third time will be the charm, and we'll get a third great Raw. Hopefully. All right, so go ahead.
With the power of positivity, we should be able to have a good Raw.
Yes, I've got my unicorn up now. I need to find a good picture of the New Day to print out and put up by my desk. I've got a picture of Bo Dallas by my desk.
There you go, there. Inspiration for you.
Power of positivity. All right, so before we get into NXT, we'll go ahead and talk about Breaking Ground. This is a really fascinating show. They started off the show showing Devin Taylor getting the axe. She took it like a champ. She did.
That was so bad for her.
Yeah. I did too. And sometimes you see some of these things and you're like, okay, well, this was obviously filmed months ago. And sometimes it's like, wow, this was not filmed that long ago. And to me, I think that part of it at least was filmed not that long ago, because she just recently, it was announced that she was let go. But yeah, that was brutal. I still think it's kind of sad they didn't keep her around as, an on-air talent. I guess they just didn't see a lot. I mean, she did get picked on a lot. She was made fun of for, her always, well, how do you feel about this question? But, she was different, and I always enjoyed her. And I loved the chemistry she had with Dana Brooke. I thought that was hilarious.
Patting on the head.
Yes. Which Brooke mentioned, well, when we talk about NXT, we'll talk about that. This episode was highlighting, they talked a lot about Dana Brooke, Bayley, and ZZ. And is it just me, or did ZZ's dad look like a Michael P.S. Hayes wannabe? Like if Michael Hayes had grown up in Louisiana, it was ZZ's dad right there. And
very true.
Yeah,
never thought of that.
That was the first thing when I saw him. I was like, God, it's Michael Hayes. Jesus. And that ZZ, you talk your poor generation, man. All the bad typecasting that millennials get is, being entitled and not working hard. It's like you look at poor ZZ and it's like, oh, honey. Every bad stereotype about millennials right there. Actually, I made a comment on Twitter at one point. I tweeted it to the Wrestling Soup guys that ZZ is like Danny DeVito's character from the movie Twins. He got all of the bad genes. So I don't know if this guy's going to last.
I'm not really familiar with him because I didn't watch Tough Enough, but I just know kind of, that I guess he's an alright talker. He's good with people, but just from what I've seen on that show, he was just, he doesn't look like he's in shape. Like you said, like poor kid, feel bad for him.
Yeah. I didn't watch Tough Enough either. I'm not doing that. Just like haven't brought myself to watch Total Divas, and I'm not going to, and unless I just hear of something that's just so train wrecky that I have to see it. But yeah, he always had issues with cardio. He was never good about working out. He's charismatic. He's from Louisiana. He's got this whole interesting story and a unique look. And luckily for him, fat guys are kind of in right now. I mean, we got Bray, we've got Kevin Owens, we've got Bull Dempsey. So fatties are on parade in WWE. So that's a nice little change. So he's got that going for him. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens later. One thing I will say is those tryouts look brutal. Holy crap.
Yeah, William Regal, man, he looks like a tough coach to have coaching you too, man. But if anybody though, I would rather have, of all the people that's on that show, I think I would much rather have Steven Regal being the one to teach me than any of them. I mean, not to knock Matt Bloom or, AKA Prince Albert or whatever, but, William Regal is just amazing as a wrestler. I don't know if you've caught any of his matches or seen any of his kind of like heel work or anything like that, but that dude is just crazy good. And yeah, the tryouts are just, I was tired just watching them.
Yeah, me too. Most of my experience with Regal was through WCW when he was Lord Steven Regal, and which there were some questionable things during that era, but yeah, he was always good in the ring. And I like how they have it set up where they've got all of these different people coaching them, so they get a variety of different points of view and opinions. I can only imagine. I mean, if we thought Regal was brutal, can you imagine if Hugh Morris was still the guy doing it? How bad that would have been.
There probably wouldn't be cameras in there to record it, because it would probably be pretty rough.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm sure that they would not had Bill DeMott still been around. That breaking ground probably never would have happened. Just because they looked at the way this guy behaves and said, we cannot put that on TV. But that, it was another good episode. I seeing the inner workings of how that all goes down, I think is pretty fascinating. One other real quick thing before we get into NXT, I know you didn't see it, but Table for 3 this week was called Divas Generation. It had Charlotte, Natalya, and Tamina. And they talked about they were the first. Tamina is a second generation, Natty is a third generation, and Charlotte's a second generation. And how I think it was Natty was the first, generational women's wrestler in WWE. It was interesting. You should, if you've got 20 minutes to spare, definitely watch it. Natty really drove the conversation. Is I think we talked about this before. A lot of times these shows, there always ends up being one person that kind of drives the conversation, and Natty took that role. And Tamina has a lot more character and charisma than she gets to portray on TV. But what was interesting in this, I thought, is it still shows Charlotte is not that comfortable, I think, speaking in public, or she hasn't found her niche yet. And some of it is, I think it's a lot to deal with being Ric Flair's kid.
At the same time, you got to think that if you're Ric Flair's kid, you would think that you would know you wouldn't be shy in public or anything like that. I mean, the man sat there and he was having an argument with Eric Bischoff and started stripping down out of his suit, butt ass naked until. So I mean, it's like you've got to. I don't know. Maybe she's just naturally shy. Could be that.
She might be. I mean, well, so sometimes kids, when they grow up, sometimes you become like your parents, and sometimes you become the opposite of your parents. And a lot of that just has to do with growing up and watching. Some of it has to do with what personality traits you have in common with your parents, and sometimes it is as you grow up, you react to things that they do. As an example, for me personally, my dad is a penny pincher. He is amazingly good with money, always has been. I, on the other hand, am horrific with money, and I think at some point money has always been so important to him that I made some kind of subconscious, unconscious decision that it wasn't going to rule my life. That's made being an adult and being a father very difficult.
Yeah.
But, so maybe to her, she's grown up in the shadow of Ric Flair, and maybe there's a part of her that's just like, nope, not doing that. But her athleticism is so good, especially being someone that, didn't go through the indies. She basically went right into FCW, and so did Tamina. Unlike Natty, who worked in Canada and Japan and a whole bunch of places. But she's got a lot of talent. There was a moment where Reed Flair came up and Charlotte started crying. That girl can cry at the drop of a hat, just like her dad.
Yeah.
And Natalia...
He was the one who passed away of a drug overdose, right?
Yes. Yeah, if I'm not... No, wait. Because there was David Flair, who's dead, and then Reed. One of them died from a drug overdose. One of them, I thought, died in a car wreck. I can't remember. I'd have to Google it. And then Natalia talked about how she wishes, some of her family could be there. She talked about Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith. So that part was really moving. But it was definitely worth watching. And so let's go ahead and get into NXT. So NXT opened this week with a vignette for the Apollo Crews Finn Balor main event. And I thought they've done a really good job building this main event up. And that's something NXT does in general, is their main events, especially their title matches, they do a good job making them seem important.
Yeah.
First match, we had Asuka against Cameron, who was showered in booze. And oh god, my favorite line from the night was Corey Graves at one point says, "I don't think there's anything on Planet Funk that could prepare you for Asuka."
See, I did not catch that line, but that is great. Corey Graves is a pretty good commentator.
Yeah, I really like the team that they have down there in NXT. I know some people complain about it, but I think the chemistry between Rich Brennan, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton is great. So yeah, there were some Asuka's Gonna Kill You chants, which are always great. At one point, there was this amazing segment or spot where Cameron basically went to slap or punch Asuka. Asuka grabbed her arm and did this flippy thing into a cross arm bar, like the move Del Rio uses. And it was just...
Sorry about that, Dave.
Oh, no worries. All right, so...
we were on Asuka and Cameron.
Yeah. Did you see that one part where Asuka hit that armbar out of nowhere?
She went to go slap her, and she just grabbed her arm and dropped her in that armbar?
Yes. Holy shit, that was amazing. Asuka is just... She floors me. I mean, she's so good. She obviously won, which she should. I mean, Cameron did do some actual proper pin attempts. She didn't try to pin Asuka on her stomach, so that's an improvement. We then had a replay of the Dash and Dawson taking out Cass and Enzo from the previous week, which parlayed into a Carmella backstage interview with Tom Phillips, which was then interrupted by Dash and Dawson. And they announced that they will be facing the Vaudevillains next week, or this coming week, for the tag titles in the main event. So that should be a good match. They also brought out a wheelchair to give to the Vaudevillains, because they said they're going to break them apart. I liked this. I thought it did a good job. They're really playing up the mechanics as a couple of badasses, and I was a guy that when I first started seeing them, when they got that first win over Cass and Enzo, I was like, what the hell? Really? But
Dave, I think these guys are actually starting to grow on me. I like these guys more than I like, I can't remember their damn names, Alexa Bliss's little...
Blake and Murphy.
Yeah. Those guys are garbage compared to these guys right here. Like, they're good in the ring, and I don't know, it's just like I think how you were saying, they're starting to grow on me a little bit.
Yeah, I will say overall that Dash and Dawson are certainly much better talkers than Blake and Murphy. Drastically different styles, but yeah, I would say I think I prefer them to Blake and Murphy. Blake and Murphy just need to be with Alexa and be her little boys, and that works beautifully. Then there was a backstage promo with Jason Jordan and Chad Gable. That was so good.
He was like, what did he say? He said, we you know what we should do? We should challenge the greatest tag team in NXT history. And he was like, well, how can we do that? We can't challenge ourselves.
Yes.
I love Gable, man.
There's actually a meme of that. I made it part of this week's the graphic for this week's episode. But then there was a joke I didn't get, and maybe you can explain it to me. But at one point, Gable was about to say that they were the greatest tag team of all time or in the world or something, and Jason Jordan stopped him. And Saul Monster mentioned that on his show, but didn't explain the joke. And I was like, I feel like I'm missing something, and I don't know what it is.
Maybe you're right. I guess that one went over my head too, because
okay.
Maybe they were just like, well, maybe we're not the best yet. Maybe we need to beat the Ascension, and maybe we need to get a little bit better. Maybe that's what it was, but I'm with you. It kind of went over my head, too.
So if anyone out there is listening that knows the answer to this, please let us know. Okay, tweet it to us, send us an email, something, because we don't know what that was referencing. We would love to know. We need to earn back some nerd points. Okay? But yeah, this was great. I think that the match that they're going to have against the Ascension, that has potential. The Ascension are 1,000 times better in Full Sail than anywhere else. So it's at this point though, Jason Jordan and Chad Gable are great. I love watching them work. Doesn't matter what,
Oh yeah, with you. And I think these two got some potential to hit main roster once they spend a little time down there at Full Sail. Especially Gable, man. That dude, he could talk, and I'm sure you've seen it last week because I listened to the podcast and you were discussing about you were talking about that whole little where he just completely out-wrestled the other guy. I can't remember who the hell it was right now, but they had that match last week, and he was just putting all kinds of moves on him. And I was just like, holy shit, this dude is just amazing. He's a legit, he's an amateur wrestler, right?
Yes. Yeah, and so is Jordan. But yeah, Gable, I think, was in the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. He's a legit amateur wrestler. The only problem he has, the only downside to him is that he's short. And we're talking short for WWE, not short in real life.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, I think he'll overcome that. He has a potential to be a huge star. People make a lot of comparisons to Kurt Angle, but he might even be better than Kurt Angle. Which I know, blasphemy, but...
Yeah, well, hey, you never know, man. With time, he could be good. It's just, we've seen a lot of Kurt Angle's, work that he's done lately, but I'm sure that, Gable has a chance to surpass that at some point in time. He keeps it up on the path that he's going right now, especially.
Oh, I agree.
What to do is you need to be able to talk and you need to be able to wrestle your ass off.
And he can do both in spades, so yeah. We then had Bull Dempsey against Angelo Dawkins with Sawyer Fulton at ringside with him. Angelo keeps doing the stirring motion. Bull got new music. I don't know if I like it or not. I kind of miss his old music.
Yeah, me too. I like the old music. It's just because it's so, you can just, it's kind of like Moose's music. You can just kind of go with it.
Exactly. But I guess they changed the music since he's no longer a heel.
And he's doing the whole bullfit thing, so that's probably the whole gimmick changes.
Yeah,
I don't know, necessarily a big gimmick change. He's just doing face work right now, pretty much.
And he's really good at it. He was a guy, and I can't remember if you and I have talked about this specifically, but he was a guy I couldn't stand when he debuted. I could not stand him. I just didn't take him seriously. Part of this problem is that singlet is so not flattering.
It's so bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man, put on some pants.
Exactly. It's like there's a reason why Bray Wyatt and Kevin Owens wear clothes.
Yes.
Yes. But Bull got the win pretty easily. Sawyer Fulton was pretty pissed. I don't know if they're going to eventually try to do something with Fulton and Dawkins. Dawkins kind of has potential. He's got charisma. Sawyer Fulton, I don't know. I guess we'll see. The Vaudevillains then had a backstage interview with Tom Phillips. I guess Tom Phillips is now the backstage guy, even though why he got kicked off of SmackDown, I don't know. Because I liked his commentary. Not that I don't like Rich Brennan's commentary, but Tom Phillips don't think they know what to do with the poor guy. But yeah.
Well, just as a note, real quick, Dave, I feel like the vaudevillains, like, this is a good idea. I feel like maybe somebody's talked about this already, but maybe the vaudevillains, when they do promos, it needs to be like silent film promos. Like, they talk, it's in black and white, and then they just say, like, on, like, little cards, like, what's supposed to be going on. Like, I loved their little rivalry that they had with the Lucha Dragons when they had the whole little, the little dudes dropping the bomb, and then them coming going and saving it. And that was just great for what it was, and, you know.
That was, yeah, I think that with them as baby faces now, I think that's why they're not doing that kind of stuff. And they were a team, they were just kind of forced, the crowd made them baby faces because Full Sail loves them so much. But yeah, that would work, or if at the very least have it go black and white. But yeah, I like these guys. I think they've got a lot of potential. I'm not sure if they're going to I don't think they'll drop the titles yet, but the match they're going to have with Dash and Dawson, who, if I'm not mistaken, I think their tag team name is the Mechanics, which is a great name for them, I think. I think it's going to be a really good match, so it's going to have a lot of potential. We then had Bayley doing a backstage interview with Tom again, and much to my chagrin, she announced that the Hype Bros will be her partners against Alexa Bliss and Blake and Murphy.
Yeah, you're not hype, bro?
No, not at all. God, I can't stand. I don't like Zack Ryder to begin with. I think he sucks. Mojo Rawley is irritating, even though from everything I've seen, like all the stuff from Breaking Ground and whatnot, he seems like a really nice guy. He seems like just a nice, easygoing, down-to-earth dude. His character sucks, and he is not good in the ring. When you're a tag team and Zack Ryder is your partner and Zack Ryder is the best wrestler in the team, you've got problems.
Yeah, it's just because Zack Ryder is just so over with the internet community, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
He doesn't put, for me, honestly, I'm with you. And, I mean, this may be, like, there's a lot of people out there who's going to disagree with me, but I personally feel like he's not that great of a wrestler. I'm talking about Zack Ryder. And, I mean, he doesn't, he just goes and puts on C+B matches at best.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I feel like he's more over for his internet personality than what he, because he had a whole internet thing going before he signed on with WWE.
Yeah, and then when he was in WWE and his career was basically in the shitter, his YouTube channel blew up, which then got him in trouble. And I think eventually they made him shut it down. But yeah, he's got a lot of charisma. He's probably a super nice guy, but his in-ring work is terrible. He's just, looks and charisma only get you so far. And his looks are starting to wane, and he's just sucks in the ring. That's all there is to it.
That's probably why he's in the position that he's in right now. He comes down here, and at least he comes down to NXT, where that's a pretty smarty crowd. So he's gonna get over down there at NXT, but that's why he wasn't getting over on the main roster, because he wasn't putting on those consistent great matches.
Exactly. And NXT is a good place for him, because having been an established guy on the main roster, having won some championships, he's in perfect position to come down. He beats some jobbers, and then he puts over the actual new up-and-coming guys. That's exactly what he needs to be there to do. It was, to me, his coming down to NXT was more about him becoming enhancement talent and to do something with Mojo Rawley, to try to salvage Mojo Rawley's career, more so than when Tyson Kidd came down, which he came down to just revitalize himself. And to me, I think WWE sees Zack Ryder as, at this point, enhancement material, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's making good money doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah. We then had the absolute worst part of the night Eva Marie in a match against Marley, and it took me forever to find out who that chick's name was. Because
but I don't know who the hell she is. I've never seen her before.
Yeah, they never mentioned her name. I had to look up, like, I think it was like 411 Wrestling or something, where they give like the breakdown of the results before I found her name. She's her real name is very Italian. It's her first name starts with a G, has a few R's and a bunch of I's in it, and her last name starts with a D, also has some R's and I's in it. And she, even though this was basically her laying down for Eva Marie, but she certainly looked much better in the ring than Eva Marie did, which in and of itself isn't saying much.
What were they chanting? Were they chanting Eva's wrestling? Because I couldn't really quite understand what they were saying. It was something wrestling. Eva's something. No, she's not. But I couldn't understand what the hell they were saying.
I couldn't either. It was probably Eva's wrestling and then responding with no, she's not. But this was, again, Eva was getting a little bit more into it in the fact that she didn't seem quite as worried about her hair in this match. She's still moving like she's in molasses. That moment where she flipped her hair into Marley's face was kind of a nice little touch. She won with a reverse STO, and it was awful. Why? I mean, if the whole thing with Eva Marie, I'm convinced, is someone up in the higher echelons of WWE just has the biggest boner for this chick and thinks she is money. And okay, fine. Yes, there are people that think she's an attractive woman after all that surgery she's had. I think she looks like a baseball glove. And you certainly compare her to Marley, who she was wrestling. There's, no doubt that Marley is the prettier of the two girls. Leaps and bounds. Just no question there. But why they keep, other than at this point they've invested so much money in the stupid bitch that they don't know what else to do, I don't know. Either that or she's blowing someone at the top.
That's probably why that she's getting the pushes. Probably because they've put so much into her that they're like, oh well, we're just gonna fucking go with it. That's the only thing that I can really think of.
And okay, so from a mathematical standpoint, I can understand that completely. Make her a valet. Though there's so many other things that WWE does at this point. She doesn't need to be a wrestler. She hurt Carmella, whether it was intentional or not, who knows? Those two are both greener than a tree, so it could have been either one or both of their faults. But Carmella got hurt in a match against her. The fans hate her guts, and it's not good heat. It's not good, we hate you heat. It's, please get the fuck off of my television, you are wasting my time heat.
They call it X-Pac heat, but now I think the proper term for it would be called Sheamus heat, because nobody likes Sheamus.
Yes. And people need to stop chanting, you look stupid, because that makes the uppity-ups, that makes like Kevin Dunn and McMahon think, oh, they like him. See, he's got heat. No, they're chanting that because he does look stupid.
He literally looks stupid.
He really does. And it's not the mohawk. It's that beard thing. But anyway. So there was that. Then it turned to a backstage interview with Emma and Dana Brooke. And I've got a screenshot of this in our graphic for this week's episode. But the way they edited this together is Dana has this look on her face like, what the fuck did I just watch? And because they came from that match, it was almost like she was watching that Eva Marie match. She's like, what the hell? It was great. Dana does great facial expressions. She is really growing on me because she is so hateable.
I also want to say this, too. After watching Breaking Ground, I have a lot more respect for her, too.
Oh, yeah.
Laugh off.
Yes. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Even from the beginning with her, it was, unlike so many people that have come in because they're models, she came in because she was an athlete. And you're right, she works her ass off. So the athletic end of it was never in question, I thought, with her. Is she just needs to learn how to wrestle and then get the whole promo thing down. But with her personality, which she has a very electric personality. She's very bombastic. She's out there, and that bodes very well for her. So she's already got the athletic ability. She's got the personality and the charisma. She just needs to get the wrestling down, and she's getting better. And
she's one that I think could be like a permanent heel.
Yes. Yeah.
I like how Bayley could be, like a permanent face. I think Dana Brooke could end up being one of the better heels of the Divas once she, like you're saying, once she gets her wrestling down.
Yeah, I agree. Unless at some point the fans turn her face because they love her work. And then at that point, she doesn't even need to change her personality. She just doesn't take as many, shortcuts. But yeah, this was a nice little backstage segment, I thought. I think the pairing of Emma and Dana Brooke is really good because Emma is really, really good, and it's nice that she's finally getting a chance to shine again. I guess at some point coming up, Emma's gonna have a match against Asuka, which should be really good. And yeah, that was that. I still think, Dana's got a lot of potential. She has really grown on me in the last few months. So, coming up was the main event, but they introduced what is going to be the theme of NXT TakeOver England, and it's Ace of Spades by Motorhead.
Yeah, you should have known. That's like Triple H's. That's his band.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just.
Oh, go ahead. Go for it.
I was just going to say, it's just so weird that, I mean, that's, personally, I like that song, and it's a great wrestling song, but it seems like it's a different, recorded version of it from what I heard. Could be wrong.
It might, maybe they've re-recorded, who knows, did they re-record it for their new album?
I wouldn't doubt it. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. And I hadn't even thought about this, but Saul Monster mentioned on his show that if there was any doubt of who is running, who's in charge of NXT, it now screams Triple H, because since he is such a Motorhead fan, and I guess all of his, or at least his two most recent entrance themes are both by Motorhead.
Evolution's theme was by Motorhead too.
True, that's right. You're right. Evolution's theme was by Motorhead. I've never really gotten into Motorhead. What little here and there I've heard of them, I've really enjoyed. I had some random best of cassette years ago, and it had a song called I think it was called Voices in the Sky that I really liked, or No Voices in the Sky. I can't remember what it was called, but it was really, really good. And then the song they did about the Ramones is great, but I admittedly I like the Ramones version of that. But yeah, this was cool. It's sometimes some of these bands that they get are just kind of make me groan, like Sleeping with Sirens, a lot of those bands, the bands that you see lately anymore that are on the cover of Alternative Press magazine, which used to be such a great magazine. Not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other story. But it's so seeing this kind of classic metal band do the theme, that was pretty cool. I kind of wonder why they need these, because this is a very WWE thing, why they have to have these themes for a show. But if it works,
maybe part of it is because Triple H is a big Motor fan, and maybe some of it is because I think the NXT event's going to be in the UK, right? And I think Motorhead is a big fan. Am I right?
Yes, yeah. Motorhead is from England, and yeah, NXT TakeOver will be in England. The next one's going to be in London. I think the other cool thing, because sometimes they have more than one song as the theme, they should have the other one be Anarchy in the UK.
Or London Calling.
Yes, that would be good too. Anarchy in the UK, I think, would make... since it's more rocking, I think would be better. Plus, I think the Clash were a far superior band to the Sex Pistols, but Anarchy in the UK, I think, is a better song than London Calling.
There's no way that they would ever let Anarchy in the UK, just because of that song, you hear the opening, the lyrics, and I'm an Antichrist, I'm an anarchist.
True.
That definitely shakes some feathers with some of them shareholders. So I think they would probably stay away from that.
That's true.
It would be a great song, though, for sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs, honestly.
Yeah, it would be. That whole album, that Sex Pistols record, is really, really good.
Oh yeah, EMI is probably one of my favorite songs.
EMI is my favorite song by the Sex Pistols. All right, Too Sweet Me. There we go. I actually did it in the air too. I too sweeted myself. Anyway.
I kind of did too.
All right, so when we had the main event, Apollo Crews versus Finn Balor for the NXT title, I really liked the thing they did where when they were doing the announcing and they dimmed the lights and had them just kind of stand facing off against each other. The other great thing was it
added to the big fight feel.
It did. They do a great job of that. But I loved during the entrance, and this is also in our graphic for this week's episode, when Finn Balor is about to get on the steps and Izzy is reaching out to him, and there's this, and I took a screenshot of it because it's hilarious, and there are pictures of it all over online, but she's looking right at his ass, and her eyes are just so big, and it's so funny. And she's just like, I'm about to touch him. Oh my God, I'm about to touch him. Oh, it's making me laugh right now. I get amused way too easily. But yeah, the big fight feel overall. What was funny is the crowd I thought was kind of dead during this episode overall. But NXT they tend to, within like a 2-day period, film 4-6 some odd episodes in a row. So, in fact, I think in one taping they'll do 4 episodes worth. So I get the feeling that this was probably the last episode in that batch of tapings. So a lot of times by that point the crowd is really tired. But they did wake up during the match. And this was a great freaking match. At one point, Balor hit a just beautiful Bloody Sunday. It looked like he almost broke Apollo Crews' neck, and it probably would have if Apollo Crews didn't have a neck the size of a tree trunk.
Right. Did you see the kick that Finn Balor laid on him right towards the beginning of that match? That just it looked like I don't know if you watch very much New Japan, but Shibata does this move where it's just this brutal soccer kick. I mean, he just
oh yeah, that was a good one. I loved there's that one part where there was an exchange where they both hit a bunch of kicks, and it was the one that ended with Balor hitting the Pele kick and then them both just laying there.
Yeah.
That was really good. This was, this I thought the whole thing was fantastic. Then at that point when they're both kind of laying there dead, and I think they're starting to stir again, Baron Corbin comes out, causes a DQ. Initially, he goes after Apollo Crews, so I think we're going to have an Apollo Crews Baron Corbin program, which I'm looking forward to. Then he also starts attacking Finn Balor. Samoa Joe comes out, and then Samoa Joe clears the ring, and there's this part where Corbin's looking at him with this big smile on his face from the stage area, like almost maybe they had planned this. And then you get Samoa Joe gets this really conflicted look on his face, like, oh man, and then he just tears into Finn Balor. But he still looks conflicted at points, and then puts him up for the Muscle Buster. That's when he grabs Balor's head and says, I did this to you. And then hit the most brutal looking Muscle Buster I've seen since he's been in NXT, and that's how it ended.
So does this mean Samoa Joe's going to be a heel now, or is this just something that he's trying to do to get the championship? I think he's going to turn heel, it seems like, especially after I did this to you.
I think it's a heel turn. And I never watched TNA, I'm not familiar with, Joe's work as a heel versus face, which he's done more, which he's done less, and whatnot. But based on this, I think he'll be a really good heel. And he could also play up the whole chip on his shoulder. I've wrestled throughout the world. Why haven't I gotten a title shot yet? And that whole angle. But, because at first I thought they were just going to go with this, because I had a feeling they were working toward a Balor-Joe match for the title. But I thought they'd keep it, face versus face. But making Joe a heel, because he is such a brutal fighter, I think will bring more out of him. And I think it's going to have potential to make the feud more interesting.
I think it's going to be a good feud.
I think so. So that's how NXT ended. Overall, I thought it was a good episode. That main event was phenomenal. I thought but of course it's Finn Balor and Apollo Crews, for God's sakes. Just think 5 years ago, or just a few years ago, someone had said, "Hey, do you think Uhaa Nation and Prince Devitt would have a great match together?" The answer is, "Oh fuck yeah!" And they proved it. I mean, it was ended with a fuck finish, but fine. It laid groundwork for future storylines. So I thought,
you can't pull a WCW and give away a good match like this. The ending was appropriate, I felt like, for how the match ended.
Agreed. All right, so let's hit up with let's go over to Ring of Honor. And so this week, Ring of Honor opened with a Kyle O'Reilly backstage promo talking about the main event match for the night, which was a triple threat match with O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and AJ Styles, which is one that was Nigel McGuinness set up last week. So this is a match I've been looking forward to all week. We had on commentary Kevin Kelly, Nigel McGuinness, and Mark Briscoe. Mark Briscoe's entertaining. Man, that guy's a character.
Yeah.
We start. Do it.
Great on commentary.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what's interesting? We were talking about the Briscoes earlier. So, and why they haven't been in WWE, and you mentioned that they were WWE's afraid of what Jay Briscoe, some of the things he would say. Apparently, when just within last 6 months, they actually were offered an NXT deal. Their contract with Ring of Honor had come up, and they talked to NXT. WWE offered them the standard NXT deal. They went back to Ring of Honor and said, "Hey, this is what WWE's offering us." Ring of Honor upped their offer. They went back to WWE and said, "Hey, this is what Ring of Honor's offering us. Can you beat it?" And WWE said, "Nope, we're just going with the standard package for you guys." And they were like, "Okay, fine," and signed with Ring of Honor, which really is where I think they belong. Because Jay Briscoe is Ring of Honor.
Not only that, but it goes back to where if you think about something I read online as a couple months back, it was about AJ Styles not basically just saying, I'm good with not going to WWE. I mean, I'm sure if the money was right, he would go, but from what I understand, he can make as much money, if not more money, working Japan, working Ring of Honor, working just independent stuff, because there was something I want to say that leaked out a while back that was how much he was getting paid for his booking. And it was just like crazy amount. Like he was getting like tens, thousands of dollars per match to wrestle like small promotions like Revolution Pro Wrestling, stuff like that. So, maybe he's just like, screw it, I don't want to do WWE. I can get paid more just working the Indies, working Japan, stuff like that. I would love to see AJ Styles in WWE, don't get me wrong, but I can understand his aspect of it, the money aspect of it as well.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's a good thing for wrestling in general, the fact that there are guys who are able to say no to WWE and make good livings. And to show people that, hey, just because you're not in WWE doesn't mean you can't be successful. Matt Seidel's another guy. He's been on fire since he got canned from WWE. His stuff in New Japan, his stuff in Ring of Honor, he's doing great work. And it's nice to know that there's competition there, that the talent has choices. They don't have to just go to this one place to make a living. And that bodes well for the fans because we get more to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the first match this week, we had Silas Young and the Beer City Bruiser, who is just a absolute joke, with the boys against the Young Bucks. The boys have new outfits since they have now been with Silas for a few weeks.
Outfits are great and hilarious.
Yes. And I love there's at one point a few different times they're fanning the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
And I love how the crowd does that fan up chant.
Fan up.
Yep. This match is going really well, and it gets to the point where the Bucks are in complete control. Silas Young gets on the mic and says that originally this match was supposed to be the boys against the Young Bucks, but now that they've softened the Bucks up, the boys need to finish it. So it goes to commercial, comes back, and we've got the boys going against the Young Bucks, and the boys hold their own. There's this one really funny moment, and I get really confused who is Nick and who is Matt Jackson in the Young Bucks. I can't keep them straight half the time. But one of the boys has one of the Bucks in a headlock, and the Young Buck just picks the boy up, and just kind of walks around with him. And there's actually a chant of "Don't tap out," which was hilarious. I love Ring of Honor crowds. They are just, as much as I love the Full Sail crowds, I love Ring of Honor crowds.
Yeah, there was a spot that was in this movie. There was a spot in this match where one of the boys was coming off the top rope, and one of the Young Bucks just super kicked the hell out of him, and he just he hit that super kick when he was coming off, and the guy just completely it was just rough looking. It was great. You gotta love the Young Bucks super kick, man. Gotta love them.
Oh yeah. I love the Young Bucks. They are so entertaining, and you gotta wonder because they just recently signed a deal with Ring of Honor, so I guess they've been basically free agents for a while. But you gotta wonder, man. Did WWE reach out to them? Was there any communication? Because the Young Bucks are super fucking over everywhere. And
you got to think at some point in time they're going to hit WWE.
They're another team though. How much interest do they want? Do they want to go to WWE?
True.
But yeah, the Bucks got the win, and it was so much fun. After the match, Silas and the Bruiser got in to berate the boys. The Young Bucks then hit the ring, did a double super kick to the Bruiser, and they were about to hit a double super kick on Silas, but he jumped out of the ring. I thought this was a great opening to the show. So we then had, after they went to commercial break, came back, we've got BJ Whitmer, who I just cannot stand, at the commentary desk, basically screaming at Nigel McGuinness to fire Kevin Kelly, Steve Corino.
Yeah.
And then he starts getting into Whitmer starts to get into Mark Briscoe's face, and so in all of this they show highlights of when Corino punched out Whitmer with his handful of roll of quarters, which was amazing. And then Kevin Kelly talks about Veda Scott serving Nigel McGuinness and Ring of Honor with papers. So they're playing up this whole other angle with Veda Scott and Cedric Alexander suing Ring of Honor for a dangerous work environment, which is just so hilarious on so many different levels. And then eventually Nigel McGuinness and Briscoe come back to the table, and we go to our next match, which was Will Ferrara against Roderick Strong. I just gotta say, Roderick Strong's music is terrible.
Did you feel like that Will Ferrara had any chance whatsoever in this match?
No.
No, yeah.
I mean, it was... it was... No. Poor Will Ferrara is in this position where... I know he did really well in that tournament thing. I forget what it's called. But he's a guy who has a lot of potential, but is still so young. And it's almost... I almost hate to use this, but it's kind of like when... If there was a U.S. Open challenge with John Cena as the U.S. champ, and someone like Bo Dallas comes out, in the fact that there's just no chance in hell.
Now, is Will Ferraro still with the House of Truth, or did he kind of like go away from them?
No, it's Donovan Dijak is the one who went with the House of Truth, because it was Dijak and Ferrara who were in the finals of that tournament. I forget what it's called. It's a tournament for basically new and upcoming people.
Yeah, that was actually a really good tournament too.
Really, I didn't see it. So
yeah, that was actually when I started like rewatching Ring of Honor. That was right when I started again. And dude, Donovan Dijak, man, that guy is freaking crazy good. He's got crazy potential too. I love that his finisher, man. I think it's I can't remember the name of it. It's Feast Your Eyes, I think is what it's called. It looks almost like a reverse GTS. The thing looks brutal.
Yes, yeah, it was. And the thing it's with him is he's so tall and lanky, but he can fly around like a cruiserweight.
Like that match last week with him and Moose, man.
Oh my God, yeah, that was great. Yeah, and he's a crazy fool. But yeah, no, I never at any point thought Ferrara had a shot in hell in this match. It was a good match, though. I mean, he put up a good fight. Roddy won with his stronghold Boston Crab maneuver. And I like Roderick Strong. He's a little bit bland on the mic, but he is a spitting image of Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I never even thought about that until you just mentioned it, but it's so true.
I mean, it's like, can we get these two guys together? He should have been Deadpool for Halloween or Green Lantern or something. It would have been great.
Right.
Okay, we then had Inside ROH, which was on the whole Jay Lethal, Roderick Strong situation, and it ended with a Lethal backstage promo, which was just fantastic. We then have Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly versus AJ Styles in a triple threat match. What was awesome about this is Cole comes out with the Kingdom, O'Reilly came out with Bobby Fish and Michael Elgin, and AJ Styles came out with the Young Bucks. And so by the time AJ gets there and he and the Young Bucks are standing in the ring is just getting showered in streamers, and there's like 10 people in the ring. It's crazy. And then Nigel McGuinness gets on the mic and says, okay, we all wanted this to be an actual fair match, so everyone who's not in the match has to leave. And it was great. The Kingdom freaks out, and the Young Bucks, as they're leaving, one of them shakes Nigel's hand and says, it's okay, we'll see you later. I thought that was a nice little touch. And then the other thing on commentary, with Jay Lethal was on commentary, and he kept doing this. He kept goading Nigel McGuinness about how, Roderick Strong's best friend is now Nigel McGuinness, and that's the only reason why he's the number one contender for the TV title and whatnot. Forgetting the fact that Roderick Strong is a multiple-time Triple Crown winner in Ring of Honor. He's held every title they've had. So yeah,
I love it. Well, he's funny. He's like, he's got Nigel McGuinness in his back pocket.
Yes, it was great, and the match was awesome. It was exactly what you would expect it to be. I think they were holding back a little bit. It's not like it was a pay-per-view quality match, but it was great. There was this one awesome spot where Adam Cole is getting AJ up for a cradle suplex, basically the perfect plex. And then Kyle O'Reilly grabs Cole in a German suplex, and they all three go over in a suplex. That was a good spot. That was so great. The ending of this match was not what I expected at all. With Adam Cole hitting his brainbuster neck breaker onto a knee that looks so brutal on Kyle O'Reilly and getting a clean win. I did not expect Adam Cole to go over in this match. But afterwards, the Kingdom came out, beat down O'Reilly, which brought out Elgin and Bobby Fish and the Young Bucks. And it all ended with a stare down between AJ Styles and Jay Lethal in the ring. And I thought it was great.
There was one spot where Kyle O'Reilly had AJ Styles in the armbar, and then Adam Cole went and put him in that figure four. That was awesome.
Oh, that was great. Yes. I forgot about that. That was a great spot. You talk about those. So, two of my five favorite wrestlers right now are Adam Cole and AJ Styles. So having these two guys in a match together with Kyle O'Reilly, who is just incredible, it was awesome. I mean, unless they all three were going to have a bad night, this was going to be a great match.
Yeah, and it was great because, I was watching it last night, and I was thinking, man, these guys only, because, I seen how much time was left, and I was like, man, these guys only have 10 minutes to put on a good match, and man, they put on a pretty good match for 10 minutes.
They did. And I liked that the ending. I liked that no one else was at ringside, because that would have been way too chaotic. And I liked that it was a clean end, a clean win, and it was a surprising clean win, because I think the safe assumption would have been that AJ Styles was going to go over, seeing as he's the number one contender for the world title, and he's got a program coming up with Jay Lethal. But I liked that Cole got the win.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Adam Cole, man. He's so good. So
yes,
talented. He
really is. He is. He's another guy, man, that WWE had the brains, which I've questioned often. He's a guy that they would sign.
How old is he?
Oh, good question. Adam Cole. Let's see. Google will tell me. Adam, if I can spell his name. Adam Cole. He was born in 1989. So, 26. So he's young.
Yeah. Well, he's still got a long way to him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I like his new T-shirt with his, his hand gesture thing.
The Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah. He has so much potential. I mean, he is, and the only thing I would think is that maybe he would, and I'm not body shaming, I'm a fat guy, I'm not in shape, I don't know anything about working out, but maybe if he was a little more cut, and I'm trying not to say this without sounding like a complete jerk, but you know what I mean? Because he's in good shape, but he's not really well defined.
Yeah.
As far as his physique, so maybe if his physique was a little more well defined, I think WWE would definitely be snapping him up.
Well, that if he ended up eventually going to WWE, they'd throw him in the weight room and tell him to beat folks.
Yeah, they probably would.
And that's what they did with CM Punk whenever he came in. CM Punk was a little scrawny guy, and he came in, and they were like, "You need to pump up a little bit, man." And he ended up he got kind of jacked for a little bit, and he finally was just like, this isn't for me. So,
yeah,
never know.
Yeah, but nowadays, I mean, maybe Adam Cole's good enough that he wouldn't really even need that. They could just bring him in. Can you imagine the reaction that he would get if he showed up at Full Sail? How that place would just
go ape shit, man.
Yeah, but then the big question though is, does he get to keep his name?
Thing is I'm you never know with how WWE or how they're going to do it, because it's like how you were saying, how we were talking on the last podcast that we both did was, Vince likes to build these guys up from the bottom up. He likes to repackage these guys when we get them, and it's like you made me think about Samoa Joe, about him having a long stay in NXT and stuff like that, and that's probably what he's going to end up doing, because Vince is probably so against him, being like, okay, well, this guy, he made his own name. I want to say the last person that actually got to keep his name and actually was really successful was CM Punk, because he kept that name through the Indies, through Ring of Honor, all that stuff.
Yeah, and that was luck, really. That was luck and Paul Heyman.
Maybe they can just do something like how they did with Kevin Steen, and just keep his first name and change his last name or something like that. That way, kind of familiar, but it's kind of different at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so, and I think we kind of talked about this last time, but you look at the kind of echelon of indie feds and how big some of them are and how big of a star you are, because Samoa Joe comes in, he keeps his name. James Storm comes in, he keeps his name. I think if they sign AJ Styles, he will keep his name. So you've got these guys who made big names for themselves in Ring of Honor, TNA, New Japan, who keep their names. But then you've got some other people like Finn Balor, who he changed his name, and he actually got a good name, so it worked out. But a guy like Uhaa Nation, there was no way in hell he was going to keep his name. But he was a guy. He was in that kind of lower tier of indies. He hadn't made it yet up to the Ring of Honor tier. Because you see, like, you've got Evolve and Dragon Gate USA, which is now part of Evolve, and to some extent PWG might be just a hair above them, but they are not on the same level as Ring of Honor. And once you get to Ring of Honor and then you get to New Japan, that's a whole other level, because WWE acknowledges New Japan. They talked about, Finn Balor's titles there. They talked about the fact that Brock Lesnar was an IWGP heavyweight champion. So they'll acknowledge New Japan. Hell, they acknowledged recently AAA and CMLL from Mexico. But, they're not going to talk about TNA ever. Unless Sting just happens to drop it during his documentary. So you almost wonder, it's like if maybe had Balor come along a year later, would he still be Prince Devitt? And maybe had he been the IWGP heavyweight champion and not the, junior heavyweight, maybe, who knows. Again, though, he got a good name out of it. Finn Balor's a great name. So it's not like they named him Cassius Ohno or anything.
Oof.
Yeah, hey, let's set this guy up for failure. Cassius Ohno. What the fuck? So that's it for the shows this week. Now, we had talked previously about wanting to kind of come up with lists, because you and I both love lists. To kind of come up with little lists of things that we could talk about each week, and we hadn't really planned on one. But since we've been talking about other podcasts, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about our, say, 3 to 5 favorite podcasts. It doesn't have to be wrestling related, but that we each listen to on a regular basis. So I'll let you start. What are your 3 to 5 favorite podcasts that you listen to?
2 of mine are wrestling podcasts, and one of the other ones that I listen to it's sort of a podcast. I really liked Cheap Heat whenever it was on, and that was a wrestling podcast. But unfortunately, they're not doing it anymore, and that's kind of a bummer. So I guess I've checked out Sam Roberts, and I think he's going to be a decent placeholder for him until then. Another one I like is actually like Jim Ross's, his podcast somewhat. He's really old school in a lot of his thinking. He's going back to, wanting to do like over the top rope eliminations, having time limits in matches and stuff like that. And some of his Terry Funk impressions are just god awful, but when he gets on there, I don't know if you've listened to it, but it's bad. Have you ever listened to a Jim Ross podcast?
I've only listened to some interviews he's done. Yeah, he's one of those guys. A lot of the like him and Jericho and Austin, I'll listen to interviews that they do if they have someone on I want to hear, but I don't sit down and listen to their shows all the way through.
Yeah, the most recent Jericho podcast that I really liked was he did one with New Day, and then there was one that he did with Jetto and Ghetto from New Japan, and that was really good. I can't handle Steve Austin's podcast because he just does nothing but plug the hell out of Burger King and just all kinds of various crap. Bad.
Yeah, I'm with Steve Austin. For me, it's hard to. I get confused because he's got like 2 different podcasts. One that he cusses in, one that he doesn't. They have like different URLs, different feeds to find them. And anytime I try to search for his show, like if I hear of someone he's had on, and I try to find it, I never can. And so I just, Stone Cold, I like the things they've had him do on Network. I've really enjoyed that. But
I agree.
But I'm not a big Stone Cold person. And Jim Ross, I've listened to some things here and there. His interview he did with AJ Styles a few months ago, I really enjoyed. But yeah, I don't listen to him a whole lot. So who else do you have on your list?
My last one goes to, I personally like the Art Bell podcast. I'm a big Art Bell fan. So
he does a podcast? I didn't know he did a show anymore.
Yeah, he came back. It was back in June, July, somewhere around in there. Yeah, he's back on the air. He's on a TuneIn radio, and he's got Midnight in the Desert, and it's pretty good throwback to Coast. I mean, he has a lot of the same bumper music. He does a lot of the stuff. Yeah, he's doing that now, and it's awesome. It comes on at 11 o'clock. On like weekdays. It's great.
Okay, I will have to check that out. Now, is Coast to Coast still on? Coast to Coast AM?
Coast to Coast is, but I'm not sure who does it anymore. I'm not sure. I want to say it's, I don't think George Norrie's doing it anymore. And I can't, George Knapp, I think, is who's doing it now, and Ian Punnett. But yeah, for my paranormal news and UFO and stuff like that, I gotta go with Art Bell, man.
I always loved Art Bell. He was so good at open lines, because you would get the biggest freaks of nature would call that show, and he was so good with them. And that was something that I thought was really lacking when he retired and George Norrie took over. George Norrie is great at interviews, at having guests on, but he is not very good at open lines. So I thought that was missing from the show. And Ian Punnett, I actually liked some of his weekend stuff, but I'm not up that late anymore, so I'm not listening to that. I just didn't know what was going on with that. I knew for a while they would bring Art Bell back for the New Year's prediction episodes.
Like Ghost to Ghost and stuff like that. Halloween.
Yeah, that was always good stuff. So cool. Yeah, there are really 3 podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. The one that I listen to each and every week without fail is Sol Monster Sounds Off, which admittedly the format of this show is completely aped from his show. Not even going to lie. And I found him through, there's a channel on YouTube called TV Tracks that they play a lot of clips from his show, Don Tony and Kevin Castle, and a bunch of others. And that's how I found both of those shows. My second favorite is Wrestling Soup, which is hilarious. If you've never listened to Wrestling Soup, you need to listen to Wrestling Soup. That shit is funny as hell.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's incredible. And then on a fairly regular basis, I'll listen to Don Tony and Kevin Castle. The problem I have with them is sometimes they talk over each other pretty bad. Part of that is because Kevin Castle is deaf, because he's a concert promoter and he's into like metal and hardcore. So he's spent the last 20 years, throwing hardcore shows. So the fool's going to have hearing problems. But they're both these, Italian New Yorkers, and they're both pretty conservative. So sometimes when they go on their political bents, I tune out. But they're also very, very pro kind of mainstream corporate take on things. And so that I always tend to disagree with them about stuff. But they do their show on Mondays after Raw. And generally because since I don't have cable, I don't watch the stuff live. On Monday nights, I'll watch as a certain website that you and I both enjoy going to. As they upload pieces of Raw, I will watch that until somewhere between 9 and 10 when my old ass goes to bed. And then I watch it a lot of times the next morning. Well, depending on when I work, I may or may not get through all of it, and I don't want to listen to their show unless I've watched all of Raw, because I don't want to be spoiled. So yeah, sometimes I will miss that, and sometimes it just depends on my mood, because I'll listen to their stuff in the car, and same with Wrestling Soup, where if I'm just in the mood to listen to something other than music in the car, I'll listen to that. I've enjoyed Sam Roberts, his show. Occasionally I'll listen to Wrestling Observer, and there's another one that I've got a few on my Stitcher feed. The
Does Observer have one on Stitcher?
Do what?
Does Wrestling Observer have one on Stitcher?
They do, yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. And, that's also a place where you can listen to this fine shows on Stitcher and TuneIn and iTunes. Make sure to check that shit out. Cheap plugs there for our own show. Anywho, there's a show. It's not a wrestling show. It's I can't remember the name of it. It's the guy who's the lead singer of the band Off With Their Heads, and he does a pretty good show where he has a band on that he interviews, and then he gets all these like advice email questions, and so he'll read those off. It's kind of interesting. I've listened to a few. I listened to he had Jack Darapple from Toy Guitar and One Man Army fame on, and I listened to that because I'm a huge fan of his work. And Off With Their Heads is a great punk band. If you've never listened to them, I highly suggest checking them out. So his show's kind of interesting, but really, for me, it's Solid Monster and Wrestling Soup are kind of my bread and butter. And I'll put on The Observer and one of those other ones that's like related to The Observer, but sometimes those are really fucking boring.
Have you ever listened to Cole Cabana's podcast? He's got a pretty good one.
I have. I will listen, and I've got him in my Stitcher feed. I will listen to him. He's another one of those. It depends on who he has on.
Yeah.
And the same thing like with Sam Roberts. It depends on who he has on. I listened to the Tyler Breeze episode, or part of it at least. I listened to his most recent one with Roman Reigns. It just, with some of these guys, it really just depends on, who their guests are.
Yep.
Well, that, I think, is going to do it, and I think something I have been doing and I forgot to do recently, I did one last week, but I've been doing a Song of the Week, and this week we're going to end the show with that, and I will add that in the post-production here in a moment. It is a song by the band Teenage Bottlerock, who, sadly, their drummer passed away this week. They're a band from pop-punk band from Wyoming, and they put out a record this year called Tales From Wyoming. It's their... Wait, let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4... 5th or 6th album? Just... Like, to me, they are the absolute quintessential pop-punk band. And there's a song in this record that it's obviously about an ended relationship, about losing a girlfriend or something, but the lyrics also really fit to the fact that the drummer Brandon Carlisle just recently passed away. It's a song called Been Too Long, and we're going to play that as we head out. Do you have any final thoughts for the day?
No, Raw should be exciting tonight. I don't know. I'm anxious for once to actually see a Raw and kind of see what's going to happen tonight for sure. I think it's going to be great.
I am too. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, don't forget to follow the show on the Twitter. The handle there is @AroundTheRingOK. You can also send us an email, aroundtheringok@gmail.com. We're also on the Facebook, facebook.com/AroundTheRingOK. And check out our homepage, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. And we will be back here next week around the same time-ish. So in the meantime, Jason, have a good week, sir. I will talk to you soon. And everyone, as Jerry Springer always says, take care of yourselves and each other.
I've been a mess here without you. You wonder why I never thought we came unglued. You said goodbye. I promise everything's okay. The truth is I feel alone. I feel the same. I'm staying out too late and I really don't care. My feelings all think I'm unaware of the way I'm treating everyone. I've been staring at my phone since you've been gone. It's been too long. conclude. It's been too long since we left ourselves to sleep. It's been too long. I miss giving you the creeps. It's been too long. I wanna run away with you. It's been too long. For at least a day or two. It's been too long. Way too long. Too long. It's been too long. Way too long. Too long. It's been too long. Way too long. Too long. Way too long. It's been too long. Way too long. Too long. Way too long. It's been too long.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view. And believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.